Welcome back to Trader UK, the money management channel. Today is Wednesday the 7th of October. By the time this video goes out, it will most likely be Thursday the 8th of October. And I just want to comment on the current state of the market, what's going on as of today, because I know if I don't, then most likely it will come back to haunt me. I'm going to explain what's concerning me as of today, why I think the market may be sending us a signal, and exactly what I'm doing about it. This all comes after I woke up today expecting to be on the receiving end of some bad losses, but actually we end the day here in the green. Before we get going today, don't forget to like the video as it really helps out when you do. And of course, if you do enjoy the video, make sure you subscribe for more similar content. Now, over the past week or so, we've been hit with some really huge news stories. First of all, and probably the biggest piece of news, was Trump being diagnosed with COVID at the end of last week. He then proceeded to spend the weekend in hospital on a cocktail of experimental drugs and treatments, and then miraculously discharged and returns to work early the following week, saying he feels better than he did 20 years ago. All of this despite the fact that we know this illness can affect you for a very long time, certainly longer than a few days, and in particular when you're 74 years old and overweight. Secondly, we then saw numerous members of Trump's team and his close family contracting COVID as a result of poor management at the White House events. The list continues to get longer and longer with what seems like a new diagnosis every day. Thirdly, just yesterday we had Trump tweeting out of hospital that he was suspending talks for a further stimulus package, and he suggests now that they wait until after the election, at which point he will then pass a package designed for working class people and businesses. And finally, we've had this for a while now, this fear of a second wave throughout Europe, but this week it seems to have become more of a reality. Many countries recording record daily cases now, and on top of this, it's now clear that hospital admissions here are also on the rise. It says here in Paris they estimate 40% of hospital beds are occupied by COVID patients, and that it could reach 100% by the end of October. Now, to really top things off, lockdowns are starting again across Europe. A lot of the governments are trying to make it sound like it's not a lockdown by leaving a few businesses open, but there are certainly strict guidelines in Paris where bars and restaurants are closing. We've also got Madrid has similar situations. People's movement is being restricted. And now in Scotland today, they announced it's going to close bars, bowling alleys, casinos, amongst other businesses in the central areas. It's also suggesting not to use public transport or travelling away from your home. So although it's not quite as extreme as before, it certainly sounds similar. And these are just the pieces of news here that have stuck in my head. I'm sure there's plenty more out there if you go digging a little bit deeper. But each of these that I've mentioned on their own must be putting big downward pressure on the market, not to mention when they all happen within a week or so of each other. So I think it would be safe to say it hasn't been a good week or so for the market. And in particular today must have been absolutely terrible. The thought of no stimulus package, which is probably the biggest piece of news which would affect the stock market. But actually, no, today, all of the key US markets were in the green. The Dow Jones up nearly 1.7%, the S&P 500, 1.6%, Nasdaq 1.8%, even the FTSE 100 in the UK was down 0.01%, so pretty flat overall. And over the past week or so, which should encompass all of these pieces of news, it hasn't actually been that bad. There hasn't been any major gains, but also no big losses like I would expect. Which makes me think one of two things here. Firstly, it could be that all of this news, everything that I've mentioned, was already expected and it's already been priced into the market. And of course, Trump's diagnosis only broke at the end of last week, so it can't have been priced into the market. We did see a quick drop on Friday, but then the market recovery started on Monday. The market actually started to recover before Trump started to recover. And let's remember, he can still end up having more serious symptoms. He's not showing symptoms at the moment, but he could end up having more complications from this. The second wave in Europe, well, that one could potentially have already been priced into the market. We know with the lockdowns, they can't keep the numbers that low forever. They're just suppressing them temporarily whilst they're reopening the economy. But Did we price in the additional lockdowns? I don't think so. Definitely not on the scale that we're seeing now. And then the biggest piece of news regarding suspension of negotiations around stimulus, I think it's the opposite actually. I think the market has already priced in that stimulus package somewhere around the $2 trillion mark. I think businesses and certainly individuals are expecting that support. In particular, the individuals. US citizens are expecting another stimulus check now, not after the election, as Trump is now suggesting it might be. So I think we can rule out the idea that all of this news had been priced into the market already, which will then bring me on to my second option, a far worse scenario, but for me, more likely in my opinion. The market is not behaving rationally right now. It's sending us a signal. When the market is healthy, you would expect good news to result in a green day. You expect bad news to result in a red day. Nice and simple. But if the market's broken, if it needs a correction or possibly a crash we may see, then this is when you expect to see some irrational behavior. So what am I doing about it? Option 2, the irrational behavior, the signals from the market, that's where I'm putting my eggs at the moment. I've been closing out some positions and increasing my cash position. I'm holding nearly 50% of my portfolio as cash at the moment. The only positions I'm holding on to are the ones that I feel are already close to rock bottom. Some of the airlines and some of the hospitality stocks I'm holding on to. Other than that, I'm just holding cash. And of course, I know it's not very nice if tomorrow the market ends up in green and Friday it ends up in green as well, that fear of missing out. But I know I'll be feeling a lot worse if in a month or 2 months' time, there's an opportunity to buy in a dip and I can't, because I ignored the signs, then I'm going to be so angry with myself. If I'm wrong, then I'll buy back in after the US elections, when we've got a bit more stability in the market, when most likely the first vaccine will be on the horizon as well. But for the moment, I think the best thing we can do is sit on a pile of cash and see how it all plays out. So I would be very keen to know people's thoughts on this one. In particular, what percentage of cash are people holding in their portfolios at the moment? Let me know down in the comments if you can do. Thank you for watching. That's all for today, and I'll see you next time.